The desert wind crawled across the land like a tired animal, dragging dust, sage, and the lingering heat of a dying sun. The old United States frontier stretched wide and empty, miles upon miles of earth that belonged to no one and everyone at once. It was 1884, the borderlands between Arizona Territory and New Mexico, a place where the Army's reach was thin, where ranchers made their own laws, and where every tribe and settler fought to carve out a life. Cole Maddox had been riding since dawn, his stallion lathered, his throat dry as sun-baked bone. The man was known in every saloon from Prescott to Silver City, tall, broad in the shoulders, jaw like a carved cliffside, and eyes the color of a rainstorm that never came. A rancher by trade, a peacekeeper by reputation, and a loner by habit. He liked things quiet, predictable, but the land didn't care what a man liked. He was crossing the dry riverbed near Eagle Ridge when he heard it. A single, sharp cry. Not animal, not spirit, human, and female. Cole pulled the reins so hard the stallion skidded, kicking up dust. His hand was on his colt instantly. Another cry, this one strained, breathless, and trembling. Cole slid off his horse and moved down the ravine, boots silent on sand. His instincts sharpened like a blade. He followed the sound deeper until he saw the shape, small, curled, and barely moving, leaning against a boulder. An Apache girl. No, woman. Barely more than 20, maybe younger. Her long black hair was matted with sweat and dust. Her buckskin dress was torn at one shoulder, revealing blood trickling down her arm. Her breathing came in quick, shallow bursts, her hands pressing desperately against her right leg. Cole drew in a slow breath. Apache territory. Apache woman. Apache trouble. He holstered his gun, but kept his guard high. "Ma'am," he called gently. Her head snapped up, eyes fierce, wild. She scowled, teeth clenched against pain. "Stay back, white man." The words came rough, accented, but clear. Cole lifted both hands in surrender. "I ain't looking for a fight." She stared at him, distrust burning in her gaze. She looked like she was ready to pick up the nearest rock and brain him with it. But she couldn't move. He saw it now. The angle of her leg was wrong. Broken. Badly. "How'd this happen?" he asked. She looked away, jaw tight. "My horse fell. Rolled down the ridge. I jumped, but—" She swallowed hard, as though admitting weakness was its own kind of death. "The bone is not right." Cole crouched, keeping a respectful distance. "You got a name?" She hesitated. Adira. A rare Apache name, meaning strong, brave. It fit. "Well, Adira," Cole said softly. "If you sit out here any longer, the coyotes'll have themselves a feast before sunrise." She glared. "I do not need your help." "You sure about that?" He gestured lightly at her leg. She winced despite trying not to. Adira's chin lifted with the last scrap of pride she had. "I can walk." "No," Cole said evenly. "You can't." "Then crawl," she snapped. "Not with a break like that," he replied. Silence fell heavy between them. The wind picked up, swirling dust around her like a shroud. Finally, she whispered, barely audible. "My people will not find me tonight. They think I ride ahead. I got lost." Cole understood what she couldn't bring herself to say. If she stayed here, she wouldn't survive the night. His voice softened. "Let me take a look." She flinched when he moved closer. "Don't touch me. I ain't fixin' to hurt you." He knelt near her leg and waited. "But I can't help unless you let me." Adira squeezed her eyes shut as another wave of pain hit her. Her breath stuttered, and for the first time he heard fear. Real fear. Her hand trembled as she slowly extended it toward him, barely, hesitantly. He reached out, but paused before making contact. Adira looked at him, her voice weak but steady. "Please, don't stop." The plea wasn't desperate. It wasn't romantic. It was a warrior asking for help she never thought she'd need. Cole nodded. "I won't." He touched her leg carefully, and she gasped hard, gripping his arm with surprising strength. Her nails dug into his skin. Cole grimaced, but didn't pull back. "Bones not pierced through the skin," he murmured, examining it. "That's the good news. And the bad. It's twisted wrong. I gotta set it back." Adira froze. "Set? It'll hurt like hell." Cole admitted. But if I don't, you'll never walk right again. Her breath quickened. Do it fast. Cole met her eyes. Fierce, brave, terrified. All right, he said gently. But I'm gonna need you to trust me for the next few minutes. Her lips parted, trembling. I trust no one. Well, Cole said softly. Tonight, it'll have to be me. He pulled a leather strap from his saddlebag and held it out. Bite this. Adira hesitated, then took it. On 3, he said. She nodded. 1. She clenched the strap. 2. Her fingers dug into the sand. THR. He didn't finish. He twisted. Adira's cry split the evening air like lightning tearing the sky. Her whole body shuddered, and tears broke free from her clenched eyes. She collapsed back against the rock, shaking hard. Cole tightened a band around her leg to stabilize it. Easy, easy now. She gasped against the pain, chest heaving. When she finally opened her eyes again, they glimmered with something new. Not hatred, not fear, not even trust. Something in between. You did not stop, she whispered, breathless. You asked me not to, he said simply. He started lifting her gently into his arms. She tensed again. What are you doing? She demanded weakly. Taking you somewhere safe. I got a cabin a mile north. I cannot go with you. You can't stay here. Her breath shuddered. My people, if they find me with you, they'll see you alive, Cole cut in. That's what matters. Adira stared at him for a long, silent moment, the desert wind brushing her hair across her face. Finally, quietly, she rested her head against his chest. And Cole Maddox, a man who planned to ride home alone tonight, realized with startling certainty he wasn't leaving tonight at all. The desert twilight draped over the land as Cole Maddox carried Adira up the slope toward his cabin. The sun had slipped low, dipping behind the jagged horizon, and shadows stretched long and thin like tired fingers. Cole walked carefully, boots crunching softly against the dry earth. Adira was light in his arms but tense, every muscle wound tight, every breath a testimony of pain. She didn't cling to him. She wouldn't allow herself that. But she didn't fight him, either. That alone told Cole how bad her injury truly was. You holding up? He murmured. She didn't answer at first. Her head rested against his chest, the sound of his heartbeat slow and steady beneath her ear, calm in a world that had turned unpredictable. When she finally spoke, her voice was thin as smoke. You should have left me. Cole huffed, not unkindly. Ain't in my nature. You risk trouble with my people. Maybe, but I'd rather risk trouble than let a woman die alone by a rock. Her breath hitched, not quite a scoff, not quite gratitude. My people do not ask for help. She swallowed, voice tight. Not from outsiders. Well, Cole said, looks like tonight made an exception. That earned him a glance, sharp, assessing, too wise for her years. But she didn't argue. As the last sliver of sun sank, the cabin came into view, a modest structure built of weathered logs and stubborn hope. Smoke curled faintly from the chimney. He'd left the fire banked low when he rode out that morning. The lantern by the door flickered in the breeze. Adira inhaled slowly. This is your place? Just a way station. I ranch down south. This cabin's for when I'm out riding long stretches. He nudged the door open with his boot and stepped inside. The warmth of the room wrapped around them instantly. The fire had revived itself, glowing orange through the grate, shadows dancing lazily across the wooden walls. A small bed built of pine stood against one wall, covered with a thick wool blanket. A table, some tools, shelves of supplies, simple but solid. Adira stiffened in his arms. No, she whispered. Do not put me on your bed. Cole glanced at her, brow raised. You want the floor? My people say. She winced as pain shot through her leg. A woman does not rest in a man's sleeping place unless. Cole didn't let her finish. Then I'll sleep on the floor. That silenced her. He laid her gently on the bed, careful not to jar her leg. She tensed, gripping the edge of the blanket until her knuckles turned white. Cole stood back, giving her space, even though every instinct told him to check her wounds again. Adira tried to sit upright, her breath sharp. You should go, she said with fragile defiance. If my people find me here, I'll talk to them. Cole replied. She stared at him, disbelief crossing her features. You do not even know who I am. I know you're hurt. That's enough for me. He moved to the fire, adding a small piece of wood, coaxing the flames higher. The cabin filled with the gentle crackling sound. When he turned back, Adira was watching him carefully, her expression unreadable. Cole crossed his arms. Let me get a look at that leg again. She hesitated, jaw clenched, but her strength was fading. She nodded once. Cole knelt beside the bed, unwrapping the makeshift binding he'd tied earlier. Her breath stuttered every time he touched her. Not from fear. He realized that now, but from the pain she was fighting tooth and nail to conceal. You're tough, he murmured. I am Apache, she said simply. We do not break. He gave her a small smile. Looks to me like you already broke. Her eyes widened, indignant. My leg, she snapped. Cole chuckled. Just your leg. Rest of you's made of iron, I reckon. Adira looked away quickly, as if she didn't want him to see the faintest curve of her lips. Once he finished securing the splint, he sat back on the floor, arms resting on his knees. You hungry? He asked. She blinked slowly, exhaustion setting in. I have not eaten since sunrise. Well, that's too long for any soul, Apache or rancher. He moved to the small stove, pulling down a tin of beans, some jerky, and a bit of dried corn. Simple food, but warm. Adira watched him with wary eyes. You cook for me? That's how hunger works, Cole said. You see someone in need, you feed him. She frowned. Is that white man law? No, he said softly. That's just decency. Adira's expression flickered, something shifting beneath her guarded exterior. Cole brought her a bowl. She reached for it, but her hands trembled. Reflexively, he steadied it. She jerked slightly at the contact. I can feed myself, she said sharply. I ain't stopping you. But her hands trembled again. Finally, quiet, humbling, rare, she whispered. Help me. Cole took the spoon gently, offering it to her. She accepted each bite slowly, her pride fighting with her need, her exhaustion battling her stubbornness. Her eyes fluttered half-closed as warmth finally spread through her. When she finished, she slumped back, face pale. Cole set the bowl aside. Pain's getting bad, he said. I got willow bark tonic if you want it. Natural medicine, she murmured. We use it too. Good, he said. Means you'll take it without a fight. Her lips twitched. Perhaps. He held out the cup. She drank, wincing at the bitter taste. When she handed it back, her eyelids drooped heavily. You should rest, Cole said. Your body needs it. Adira shook her head weakly. I cannot sleep here. If I wake in a strange place. I'll be right here, Cole promised. I ain't going anywhere. She studied him, really studied him, for the first time. The hard lines of his face softened in the firelight. His voice steady, his presence calming like deep water. Finally, her voice barely above a breath. Please, don't stop watching over me. He nodded once, firm and gentle. I won't. Adira's eyes fluttered closed. And as Cole Maddox stretched out on the wooden floor beside her bed, leaning back against the wall and watching the fire burn low, he realized the truth. He'd faced ambushes, gunfights, and blizzards, but nothing had ever felt as dangerous as caring whether this woman woke up safe in his cabin. He wasn't leaving tonight. He wasn't sure he'd leave tomorrow, or the day after that. Not while Adira lay in his bed, trusting him, against her will, against her fear, against everything she had been taught. And that frightened him more than any Apache warrior ever could. Cole didn't sleep that night, not really. He dozed in brief, shallow spurts, eyes half open, ears tuned to every shift in the cabin, every faint whimper of pain from Adira, every crackle of the fire. He'd slept in war zones with cattle thieves lurking in the mesquite, but something about watching over her made him stay awake without even meaning to. Maybe it was the way she breathed, soft, uneven. Maybe it was the way her fingers twitched every time a spark popped in the fireplace. Maybe it was the knowledge that if she woke scared and alone in a strange place, panic could undo all the work he'd done to save her leg. Or maybe it was something he didn't want to name yet. At some point near midnight, Adira stirred. A sharp gasp broke from her lips. her body tensing as though fighting an unseen enemy. Cole was beside her in an instant, his hand gentle on her shoulder. "Easy," he whispered. "You're safe." Her eyes snapped open, wild at first, then slowly settling when she recognized him. "You," she swallowed. "I forgot where I was." "That's all right," he murmured. "You ain't in danger." Adira blinked away the fog of pain and dreams. "I heard my brother's voice," she whispered, eyes unfocused. "He was calling for me." Cole's hand stilled. "Ain't he close by?" "In the dream, yes." Her gaze found his, sharp again. "But in truth, no? My people are far west by this time. That is why I fear." Cole eased himself onto the low chair beside the bed. "Tell me." Adira hesitated, as though speaking would break something sacred. Then she exhaled shakily. "I rode ahead of my people at dawn," she said. "I wish to prove myself a worthy scout. My father, he doubts me. He says I have the spirit of a hawk, but the recklessness of a colt." Cole nodded slowly, and the fall proved him right in his eyes. Her jaw tightened. "If he finds me injured in a white man's cabin," she shook her head, "he will think I am weak. Or worse." Cole didn't ask what worse meant. He had a feeling he already knew. Adira shifted slightly, wincing. He adjusted the blanket over her without thinking, and again she watched him with that unreadable stare, something soft flickering beneath her guarded expression. "You stayed awake," she said quietly. "Mostly." "Why?" Cole's eyes met hers, honest and steady. "Because you asked me not to stop." The firelight danced across her face, revealing the tension easing from her jaw, the faint flush warming her cheeks despite the pain. Silence settled, thick, charged between them. She looked away first. "I am thirsty." Cole fought a smile as he poured fresh water from the jug. "That I can fix." He held the cup to her lips. She drank slowly, keeping her gaze fixed on the wooden beams above as if looking at him would be admitting too much. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you." It was barely there, so soft he might have missed it if he weren't watching her so closely. Cole nodded once, simply. "You're welcome." Adira drifted back into an uneasy sleep, but Cole stayed beside her until dawn brushed pale gold across the windows. By sunrise, her fever had climbed. Not dangerously high, but high enough. Cole frowned as he pressed a cool cloth to her forehead, feeling heat radiate from her skin. She stirred, muttering something in Apache before blinking awake. "Why are you doing this?" she rasped. "Because you're hurt." "That is not enough reason." Her breath trembled. "You owe me nothing." Cole sat back on the chair, arms folded over his chest. "Don't need a reason to help someone." She shook her head weakly. "White men always have reasons." Cole raised an eyebrow. "That's so." Her gaze sharpened despite her fever. "Some want land. Some want gold. Some want to claim what is not theirs." Her voice lowered. "Some want women." Cole straightened, eyes darkening. "If I wanted something from you, Adira, you'd know it. I don't play at taking advantage of a wounded woman." Their eyes locked, her mistrust clashing with his quiet conviction. After a long moment, her expression softened. Barely, but it did. "You are different," she admitted. "I reckon so." Cole dipped the cloth back into the basin. When he placed it on her arm, she flinched, then caught herself. "Sorry," she murmured. "No need," he said. "Hurts like hell, I know." Adira closed her eyes again, her breaths uneven. Then, unexpectedly, she whispered, "Sit closer." Cole blinked. "What for?" "So I know you're there when I wake." Something hit his chest, something warm, unsteady, dangerous. He moved his chair right beside the bed. Adira exhaled, tension easing from her shoulders. "Thank you." Cole's voice dropped low, almost gentle. "You're safe, Adira. I ain't going anywhere." She let herself drift in and out of sleep. Whenever she stirred, she reached toward him, barely, just a brush of fingers, and every time, he was there. At one point, she whispered something he almost didn't catch. "Your voice, it is calm, like water at dusk." Cole cleared his throat. He wasn't used to compliments, especially not ones that felt like they were pulled from poetry. Later, as the sun warmed the cabin, she woke again, clearer this time, less feverish. "Cole," she murmured. I am afraid." He leaned closer. "Of what?" "That my people will find me here." and think something happened between us. Cole's voice lowered, steady as a promise. Nothing happened between us, but me keeping you alive. Adira swallowed, eyes glimmering. That is not the worst thing they might fear. Cole held her gaze, waiting. She breathed out slowly. My father thinks any white man who looks at me wants me. Cole's jaw tightened, heat rising beneath his skin, but not for the reason she feared. He lowered his voice to a quiet rumble. Your father's wrong about a lot of things. Adira studied him, tension tightening her fingers in the blanket. But, she whispered, breath shallow. Do you? Cole cut her off gently. Right now? All I want is to see you walk again. Adira froze. Her lashes fluttered. Something inside her cracked, just a fraction. You are strange, she whispered. How so? You care. Without wanting anything in return. Cole shrugged lightly. That's just what decent men do. She stared at him like she'd never seen a decent man before. A long silence followed. Soft, warm, fragile. Then she whispered, barely audible. Please, don't stop caring. Cole's breath caught. He nodded once, voice low. I won't. Outside, a distant sound echoed. The faint rhythm of horses approaching. Adira's eyes widened with sudden terror. My people, she whispered. Cole stood slowly, hand drifting to his revolver. Not to fight, but to protect. He looked at her, steady and sure. Whatever happens next, he murmured, I'll handle it. And as the hoofbeats grew louder, he realized with absolute certainty. He'd risk anything to keep her safe, even if it meant facing every Apache rider in the territory. The hoofbeats grew louder, slow at first, then sharper, more distinct, echoing down the ridge like distant thunder. Cole stood at the cabin door, palm resting against the wood, listening with every ounce of instinct he'd honed in his years on the frontier. 3 riders. Maybe 4. Not a patrol. Not settlers. Too quiet. Too precise. Apache. Behind him, Adira's breathing turned shallow, fear replacing the fever that had plagued her through the night. Cole, she whispered, voice trembling. My father, he will not listen first. He will strike first. Cole turned, his face shadowed in the warm glow of the fire. Then I'll make him listen. No, she rasped. She tried to push herself up, winced, and collapsed against the pillows. You do not understand. If they find us alone inside, if they think. Cole crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside her, his presence steady as a mountain. They'll see you're hurt, he murmured. They'll see I patched you up. That's all. Adira shook her head desperately. My father believes any white man near an Apache woman seeks to claim her. Ownership. Touch. Shame. Her breath hitched painfully. He will not ask what happened, he'll decide. Cole's jaw tightened. Then he can speak his piece outside. I ain't leaving you. She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. Cole, pleased if they kill you, it will be my fault. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a warm, quiet rumble. You didn't drag me here, Adira. I chose to stay. Her lips trembled, not from pain, but from something deeper, rawer. Please, she whispered, do not fight them. Cole brushed a piece of hair from her face, his touch feather-light. I won't raise a gun unless they make me. She closed her eyes, relief and dread mixing like storm clouds. But when the hoofbeats stopped right outside the cabin, she flinched so hard she nearly cried out. Cole rose slowly. You stay here, he said gently. No sudden moves. No talking unless you need to. Adira swallowed hard. Cole. He paused. Don't step outside angry, she whispered. Step outside like a man with nothing to hide. Cole nodded. I'll be right back. When he opened the door, the early morning sun hit him like a blade. Bright, sudden, unforgiving. 4 Apache men sat mounted before the cabin. Their horses were lean and muscled, coats shimmering bronze beneath the light. The men wore decorated buckskin, their faces painted for riding, red streaks across their cheekbones, white lines along their jaws. Each carried a bow, a rifle, and a knife. And the man at the front, tall, stern, eyes sharp as obsidian. Adira's father. Cole didn't need an introduction. He could feel the fury boiling off the man like heat from a forge. The leader pointed his rifle at Cole's chest. Where is the girl? He barked in accented English. Cole didn't flinch. Inside. Hurt. Why is she in your cabin? She broke her leg. I said it. You touched her, the man roared. Only to fix the break, Cole said calmly. The man slid off his horse in one swift motion. The other warriors followed. They surrounded him, forming a half circle. Cole kept his hands open at his sides, visible, non-threatening. I'm Cole Maddox, he said evenly. Rancher south of here. Found her by the ravine. Horse fell. She was bleeding bad. You lie? I don't. The father stepped closer, face inches from Cole's. You expect me to believe a white man helped an Apache woman out of kindness? Cole didn't blink. I ain't the kind of man who leaves anyone to die. Something flickered in the chief's eyes. Not belief. Not yet, but uncertainty. Behind them, a soft whimper escaped the cabin. Adira. The chief spun toward the sound, rage igniting anew. He shoved past Cole, fingers tightening on his rifle. Cole reacted without thinking. He caught the man's arm. It was the worst possible move. Instantly, 3 blades were unsheathed, their tips pressed against Cole's ribs, throat, and spine. But Cole didn't release the chief. Their eyes locked. If you burst in like that, Cole said low and steady, you'll frighten her. She's barely breathing straight as it is. The chief growled. You do not tell me how to enter a room with my own daughter inside. Cole didn't back down. Then enter as a father, not as a warrior. The chief froze. For a moment, everything hung suspended in the hot, dusty air. The horses, the warriors, the blades, the breath of the land itself. Then the chief jerked his arm free. Move. Cole stepped back. The men lowered their weapons, eyes still burning into him. He opened the cabin door with care. Adira lay on the bed, pale, sweating, eyes wide with dread. Father, she whispered. The chief stormed inside, stopping dead when he saw her leg splinted, wrapped tight with proper binding. He walked to the bedside slowly, anger slipping into shock. You truly are hurt, he breathed. Adira's eyes warmed with relief. Yes. Why did you ride alone? His voice cracked. Why, Adira? She looked down, shame flickering. I wish to prove I was ready to lead scouts. No, he said, kneeling beside her. You proved only that you are reckless. She swallowed hard. The chief's gaze shifted to Cole. You set her bone well, he said grudgingly. Better than many soldiers. Cole nodded once. I learned from a surgeon years back. The chief rose slowly. But you kept her here overnight. She had a fever, Cole explained. High one. She wouldn't have survived outside. You stayed with her? Yes. The chief's jaw clenched. And did you touch her for anything but healing? Cole didn't look away. No. Adira spoke, voice hoarse. Father, he protected me. Protected. The words seemed to pierce the chief's armor. She cried in her sleep. Cole added gently. Called your brother's name. I kept the fire high and made sure she had water. The father blinked, conflicted, torn, trying to reconcile what he saw with what he believed. After a long silence, he finally said the words Cole didn't expect. You saved her life. Cole inhaled deeply. Yes. The chief nodded once, stiff, reluctant, but real. You have done my family an honor. Then he added, voice grim but grudgingly respectful. And because of that, I will not take your life today. Cole exhaled just slightly. But, the chief continued darkly, you will step outside. We must speak. Cole glanced once at Adira. She watched him with fear in her eyes. Not fear of her people. Fear of what they might do to him. He gave her a small nod. A promise. Then he stepped outside, the door closing behind him. The warriors surrounded him once more. But Cole Maddox didn't tremble. Didn't blink. Didn't step back. Because he'd realized something powerful, something dangerous, something true. He wasn't staying to protect himself. He was staying for her. And he wasn't leaving until he knew she was safe. Even if her father wanted to drag her away that very morning. Even if it meant fighting for her place in his cabin. Or fighting for the right to stay in hers. The desert night had settled fully now. Thick and velvet dark. The kind that wrapped around a man and made him feel the weight of everything he'd done and everything he hadn't dared to do. Cole Wyatt sat beside the dying fire, the orange glow flickering against the canyon walls like old spirits dancing. His shirt was off, drying from where he'd scrubbed blood from it in the creek. His hat lay at his side. His breath was slow, heavy, but it wasn't exhaustion that had his chest tightening. It was her, Ayanna. She sat on the other side of the fire, wrapped in Cole's coat, her dark hair falling loose over her shoulders and long, wet strands from where she'd washed the dust off her face. Her legs were folded beneath her, bare feet pressed to the warm ground, her eyes reflecting firelight and something softer, something dangerous. Cole swallowed hard and looked away. He'd been around women before. Not many, but enough to know what desire looked like. Enough to know when a man should stand up and walk away for his own good. But he couldn't walk away. Not from her. Not now. Not after saving her. Not after she'd looked at him like he was the only safe thing left in this whole damn world. Don't be a fool, Wyatt. You don't cross that line. Not with her. Not tonight. He tossed a piece of mesquite into the flames and cleared his throat. You should sleep, he murmured. We gotta move before sunup. She didn't answer. When he finally looked at her, she wasn't watching the fire anymore. She was watching him. Cole. Her voice was soft, breathy. Come sit closer. His heart kicked hard against his ribs. No, he said too quickly. Best we keep some distance. Just until. We're alone out here, she whispered. No one will judge. That's not what I'm worried about. Ayanna stood, the firelight painting her in warm gold as she stepped around the flames. Barefoot, silent, graceful as the night itself. She stopped only a foot from him. Cole went still. Ayanna. He said her name like a prayer he wasn't ready to say out loud. Look at me, she breathed. He did. And God help him. He stopped breathing. Her eyes held no fear, no doubt. Only a deep, aching gratitude, and something that made Cole's hands tremble. You saved my life today, she whispered. More than once. You don't owe me anything, he said, voice rough. She knelt in front of him. I know. Her fingers reached for his cheek, hesitant, trembling. That's why I trust you. Every muscle in his body locked tight. He wanted her. Lord, he wanted her more than anything he'd ever wanted in his life. Not for her beauty, not for the way the firelight traced every curve of her face, but because she made him feel seen, real, needed, and he didn't know what to do with that. Ayanna, he whispered, grabbing her wrist gently. This ain't right. Why? She asked softly. Because you're a rancher? Because I'm Apache? No, he said. Because you're hurt. Because you're scared. Because you're a skin for comfort from the first man who didn't try to kill you today. She didn't pull away from his grip. Instead, she slid closer. I'm not asking for comfort, she whispered. I'm asking for you. Cole's jaw clenched. His breath stilled. His entire body went taut as a bowstring. Ayanna, don't. She leaned in, her forehead resting gently against his. Please don't stop, she murmured. Not now. Not when you're the only thing that feels safe. And just like that, the ground under Cole Wyatt shifted. Not lust. Not want. Something deeper. Something dangerous. Something that made him feel like he'd been chosen for something bigger than himself. He cupped her face with both hands, his fingers trembling. Her eyes fluttered closed. For a moment, the world was silent. Only their breathing. Only their closeness. Only the fire crackling softly behind them. Cole pressed his forehead harder against hers. Ayanna, he whispered, voice shaking. You're making this real hard. Then let it be hard. Her breath brushed his lips. Just don't walk away. He nearly broke. Nearly. But something in him, something loyal, something strong, kept him grounded. He pulled back just an inch. Not tonight, he murmured. Not like this. Her eyes opened slowly, shining with something fragile. Did I do something wrong? She asked. He shook his head immediately. No. You did everything right. Too right. He tried to smile, but it came out pained. I ain't leaving tonight because, his voice caught. Because if I did what I want to do right now, I wouldn't stop. Her breath hitched. And that scares you? She whispered. He nodded once. She studied his face, the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes avoided hers, the way his hands still cupped her cheeks like he couldn't let go. Then slowly, she climbed into his lap. Cole froze solid. Her arms slipped around his neck. Her cheek rested against his shoulder. Her breath warmed his skin. He didn't move. Couldn't. Until she whispered. Then don't stop. Not from this. Her head lay against him. Her body leaned into him. Her breathing steadied against his chest. She wasn't seeking passion. She was seeking safety. And Cole finally understood. He wrapped his arms around her, carefully, gently, protectively, and held her close. No hunger. No heat. Just a man holding a woman who'd nearly died. Just a woman clinging to the one person she trusted. The fire crackled low. The night deepened. Coyotes sang in the distance. Wind whispered through the canyon brush. But Cole didn't hear any of it. All he could hear was her breathing. All he could feel was her heartbeat against his. And in that quiet, aching moment, he realized something. He wasn't leaving tonight. Not because she asked, but because his heart wouldn't let him. Not now. Not ever. Cole didn't sleep that night. Not with Ayanna resting in his arms, her breath soft against his collarbone, her fingers curled lightly into his shirt like she feared he might disappear if she loosened her grip. He held her until the fire shrank to embers. Held her even after the cold crept in. Held her long after his shoulders stiffened and his legs went numb beneath her. Because for the first time in years, he wanted to be held onto. Just before dawn, the desert turned pale silver. The first wind swept through the ravine, carrying the scent of sage and distant rain. Ayanna stirred, eyes fluttering open. Her lashes brushed his chest before she lifted her head. "You didn't sleep," she whispered. "Didn't need to," Cole murmured. "Had all I needed right here." A faint blush warmed her cheeks. She sat up slowly, drawing his coat around her like a shield against the new morning's cold. Cole stood and stretched his back. "We should move. Scouts might be trailing us." She nodded, though uncertainty flickered across her face. "Will you stay with me today?" Cole knelt to tighten his bootstraps. "I'm staying with you every step till this is done." She watched him for a long moment. Even after? He looked up, and for the first time since he'd found her, scared, bleeding, hunted, Cole Wyatt didn't see a terrified girl. He saw a woman with hope, and a future she was afraid to name. "Yeah," he said softly. Even after. They headed north by sunrise, skirting the canyon edge where the land turned rugged and hard for horses. Cole placed Ayanna between the rock wall and himself, shielding her from sight. "You keep close," he ordered gently. "I won't slow you," she promised. "You ain't slowing me," he said. "You're the reason I'm moving at all." She looked down at that, hiding her smile. Hours passed. Heat rolled in. The sun climbed high and merciless. By midday, they reached a narrow pass, two cliffs leaning together like the jaws of a giant stone beast. Cole stopped dead. Tracks. Fresh. Not dozens. Not an army. Just two horses. Moving fast. And the sign of a third, lighter, smaller, dragged. He crouched down, running fingers through the disturbed dust. "Scouts," he muttered. "Your father's men." Ayanna went pale. "They found us." Cole didn't answer. Because his answer stood at the mouth of the pass. Two riders emerging from behind the rocks, rifles drawn, eyes cold. One shouted something in Apache. Ayanna stiffened. "What did he say?" Cole asked. "That I am to come quietly," she whispered. "Or he shoots you first." Cole stepped in front of her. His hand went to his holster slow and steady. He didn't draw. Not yet. No sudden moves. Not unless he meant to fire. "I'm only going to say this once," Cole said calmly. "The girl stays with me." The scout barked another order. The second man raised his rifle higher. Ayanna grabbed Cole's arm. "Don't," she begged. "They will kill you." "Not if I kill them first," Cole murmured. She shook her head hard. "No. They are only doing what my father commands. They don't understand what he did. What he allowed. They think I'm being rescued." Cole's jaw ticked. "They ain't talking you back," he said. "Not alive. Not unconscious. Not in chains. Not at all." She swallowed. "What if they shoot you?" Cole took a breath. "Then I'll die knowing I kept you safe as long as I could." Her eyes filled with tears. The first scout nudged his horse forward, 10 feet, 8-6. Rifle aimed square at Cole's heart. Cole's thumb slid onto the hammer. Ayanna moved. She stepped between him and the guns with a raised palm, speaking rapidly in Apache, her voice commanding, urgent, powerful. The scouts hesitated. Cole held his breath. She spoke again, more forcefully. Finally, the lead scout lowered his gun, but pointed it at Ayanna instead of Cole. He said something sharply. She closed her eyes. What did he say? Cole whispered. Ayana's voice trembled. He says, if I truly choose you, if I stand with an outsider, then I have chosen a life away from my people forever. Cole's chest tightened. And what do you want? He asked quietly. She turned to him. Her eyes burned bright, full of fear, full of hope, full of something stronger than either. I choose the man who held me when I couldn't sleep. She took a breath. The man who treated me like I mattered. Another breath. The man who didn't stop, even when I asked him not to. Cole swallowed hard. The scouts exchanged a look. Then, slowly, reluctantly, they lowered their rifles completely. The lead rider spoke one final sentence. Ayana's shoulders fell. What now? Cole asked. He says, he will tell my father I am dead, she whispered. It is the only way to spare you. Cole stared at her. And you? I walk my own path now, she said softly. Beside you, if you'll have me. He stepped forward and cupped her face gently. I ain't letting you walk anywhere without me. Ayana closed her eyes as his forehead touched hers, tenderly, reverently, like something sacred. The scouts rode off without another word. The desert went silent again. Ayana exhaled shakily. It's done. No. Cole murmured as he pulled her into his arms, holding her tight, holding her completely. It's just beginning. They left the canyon by dusk, walking side by side. No fear, no running, no shadows chasing them. Just two souls crossing a land too big to understand. Finding something rare in it anyway. When campfire night came again, Ayana leaned into Cole's chest, just like before. But this time, there was no trembling in her fingers, no desperation in her breath, just peace. And when she whispered, please don't stop, it wasn't fear speaking. It was forever. Cole held her tighter, his chin resting atop her hair, the firelight glowing warm around them. I won't, he promised. And he didn't. Not that night. Not the next. Not for the rest